Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. In today's video, we're going to take a quick look at the major differences between Western Mountaineering's long-standing Gore Windstopper fabric and their new fabric, Stormshield. Western Mountaineering is discontinuing their Gore Windstopper line of bags, and there were 9 bags in that series. Those bags have now been replaced with Western Mountaineering's new Stormshield series. It's mid-February 2025. And Western Mountaineering has sent me out this new representation of the Kodiak Stormshield. Now here on the left, I've got my Western Mountaineering Badger with the Gore Windstopper fabric on the outside. These are both 2-layer laminate fabrics. They have an outside face fabric, and then there's an expanded membrane that's bonded to that face fabric. Now, the Gore Windstopper series, that membrane was polytetrafluoroethylene, or expanded Teflon, if you will, which has forever chemicals in it. The Stormshield fabric has no forever chemicals in it, in the membrane or in the DWR finish that's applied to it. So, in the case of the Stormshield, that's an expanded polyethylene layer that has all the millions of holes in it that allow the outer shell to breathe. They both have a nylon face fabric. This face fabric on the Gore Windstopper has the ripstop squares are approximately 1/8 of an inch apart. And on this Stormshield, those ripstops are maybe a 1/16 apart. The ripstop is much tighter on this Stormshield than in the Gore Windstopper. I had the opportunity to test out this new Stormshield fabric in this bag. I slept in this bag. It got down to 2.6 degrees Fahrenheit and it snowed all night. And it was a great test for this bag. It did not wet out. I didn't have any snow inside the bag. It didn't wet through. There was no compromising of the down whatsoever by moisture. But I wanted to do a quick additional moisture test. It's just going to be simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spray with a sprayer about 10 sprays onto this baffle. We'll do the foot box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pump about 10 sprays of water onto the foot box section, this baffle right here on the Gore Windstopper Badger, and then I'll do the same right here across the foot box of this Kodiak. Kodiak has 1 inch more loft than the Badger, so these are not identical models. So this is good to 15 degrees, this is good to 0 degrees. So this has got more loft by design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray 10 pumps onto here. We're going to look at that. And then I'm going to pour a 3-ounce Dixie cup of water into like the third baffle. We'll create a depression and just pour the water in there. We're going to see how this works. Okay, so we're going to do 10 pumps on the foot box here. That was 15 pumps if you counted. I'm going to do the same here. Okay. Okay, so 15 pumps really wasn't that much water. So I'm going to spray another 15 pumps on both of them. Okay, so as you can see, it's beating up real well on the Gore Windstopper. And it is beating up well on the Stormshield fabric. Right now, this Stormshield is beating up really, really nice. The beads seem to be very small and tight. I mean, there's bigger beads of water as well, but what I'm trying to say is there's no wetting through into that surface that I see whatsoever. And all the moisture is staying in very small beads. Over here on the windstopper side, it's on the windstopper side, it doesn't look so neat and taut. It's actually looks like it's pooling in areas. Yeah, right now the Stormshield is winning on the beading. The score windstopper appears to be beading, but also pooling. So we'll take a look at it in 5 minutes. I'll be back in 5 minutes. So after 5 minutes, it is still beading up quite well on the Gore windstopper. The beads are larger. They tend to collect within a square of the ripstop grid, so it kind of makes sense that these beads are larger. As we come over to the Stormshield bag, we see that it's still beading up. Lots of the beads are smaller because they fit into the little confines of the ripstop grid. So the beading is smaller on the Stormshield due to the smaller ripstop squares, whereas here on the windstopper it's a larger bead. All right, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let these sit for another 10 or 15 minutes and then come back when they're dry and we can examine the surface. Okay, so it's now been 15 minutes since I sprayed the 30 pumps from that little water mister bottle. And on the Gore windstopper bag, we still see a lot of beading, a lot of wetness. Come over here to the Stormshield, and I don't see any moisture. Yeah, what I do see is that dimpling effect on the outside, which I noticed after I did the field test, and I got snowed on all night. After I shook the snow off and I came in my room here to warm up, the fabric was dimpling, and that's the best I can describe this to you. It seems like this is my hypothesis, it seems to dry faster as there's water on the surface, but it's negligible, and there's that dimpling effect. Whereas on the Gore windstopper, there's a lot of water left on that surface. So what I think, this is my hypothesis, I think that the big 1/8" ripstop grid of this Gore windstopper is keeping it from creating tinier bubbles with the same amount of moisture, but it does increase the surface area for evaporate. It does all these millions of little, yeah, you can see that beading effect. You can see it right now. It's just a little bit of a dimpling of the fabric. But I think that what's happening is that there are so many smaller beads of moisture that they're able to evaporate the mass out quicker than these big chunky 1/8" droplets that are on the Gore windstopper. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take a dry clean terry cloth towel here, terry cloth towel, and I'm going to wipe that surface. This isn't exactly terry cloth, but it'll work. Wipe that surface dry. And wipe this surface dry. Now, more I work with this Stormshield Kodiak, the more jealous I am of it, because this baffle that we sprayed here, it's really lofty and fully packed it down, and it's a standard fill model. This is my overfilled Badger, and it's not reading quite so plump. The important piece to note is that the outer shell fabric needs to stay dry in order for the membrane to allow water vapor molecules to escape from inside your bag. You can soak this fabric all the way through, and as long as you're not soaking through the seams, the inside of the bag is going to be dry because of that membrane. It's a waterproof membrane. But what's important is keeping that outer shell fabric dry so that it can wick up that moisture that's being emitted at night from your body and evaporate out into the outside. So having a real efficient DWR finish is very important. I'm now going to move on to the second little test that I got planned for us. Okay, so it's now been another 5 minutes or so. It's been about 20 minutes since I sprayed the water on both of these foot box sections. I drag my hand across here, the surface feels damp. Same there. But maybe not so much damp, but rather cool, indicating that there's still water evaporating off of this surface. The Stormshield takes on a dimpled look after all visual moisture has evaporated or soaked in, whatever the case may be. The surface looks a little dimpled. Now in the Gore Windstopper, there's none of that dimpling effect at all, which means that, which kind of tells me that, nothing went into this fabric. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. Yeah, it's a tough call. I mean, I thought maybe that test would show us. All right. So here's the other test I got. I'm gonna create a divot here in this third baffle from the end. Got a 3-ounce Dixie cup here. And I'm just gonna pour the contents of that into there. Oh, and I got another 3-ounce Dixie cup here for this Stormshield Kodiak. 1, 2, 3. Hole going there. All right. So the Badger over here, I got to redirect there. Now none of the water is on the seam lines at this point, at least. And the same with the Stormshield. Now I'm going to show you this. Look at how much deeper the hole seems to be on the Stormshield. I mean, it looks like a lake that you can dive down into. Whereas the Gore Windstopper, I don't know. I'll let you look at them. Okay, so the Badger, got a nice little sage green lake down there. And then over here on the Stormshield bag, see how I punched it down and it looks like a deep cavernous lake. It's like a monochrome top of Lake Baikal or something. Over here, he's got a green mossy pond. All right, so I'm going to go for 1 hour, come back, and we're going to see what happened. I wanted to show you real quick. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but I noticed it. I'm walking out of the room here. I just put these pools of water in those baffles. So it's now been like 30 minutes on this footbox section, and I can see a little bit of that dimpling on that surface. So it does appear that the Gore Windstopper face fabric did have some dimpling. It just took longer for it to show up than on the Stormshield bag, which that dimpling is still there a little bit. But it's still dimpled a little bit, but not nearly as prevalent as it was just a few minutes ago. All right, so it's been an hour, a couple minutes beyond, and we'll just see what this looks like. So I'm going to try to recoup this water just by creating a trough here. Ooh, that may be precarious. Let's see here. Whoop, oh, there we go. Yeah, I'm getting it. All right. Well, I had about a tablespoon of mess at the beginning there, but it reclaimed all the water. I filled both of these up to within 1/8 of an inch of the top, and that's what I poured onto the bags. And it's about 1/4 of an inch down now because I lost that bit there. Maybe I can do a little better with the Badger. Whoa, Billy. I got all of it back. Saved 10 drops. But yeah, this is 1/8 of an inch from the top. So I believe that if I had that's how much I lost in that one. So I'd say I got all the water back, pretty much. Okay. So I'm looking at the Gore Windstopper, and there's a discoloration of the fabric there, and there's still a little moisture on it. Over here on the Stormshield, there was like 6 or 7 drops of water left there. And there is a discoloration of the fabric. It's more difficult to see on this gray, but I can see it now. The fabric is discolored in the area that the water was, in much of the same way that the Gore Windstopper is discolored in the area where the water was. So man, that Stormshield's pretty nice. What I think is going to happen now is it's going to dimple all through here, and then go back to what it was. But I don't think that any of the down was compromised in these. That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at how well the face fabric repels water. Because if the face fabric gets wet, you can no longer effectively evaporate the moisture from your body out into the outside atmosphere. So yeah, I'm glad I did this test, and hopefully it's helpful to somebody out there. Because, you know, if the question is, so Matt, you've been able to play with this new Stormshield fabric, you put it through some tests, you got snowed on, what's your take? Are you gonna sell all your Gore Windstopper bags and buy new ones made out of Stormshield? No, I'm not gonna do that. It's not a real game changer, but it is for Western Mountaineering, and it is moving forward, because this is no forever chemicals in the creation of this fabric. Western Mountaineering was quick to point out to me that the PFAS, PFC forever chemicals are very low in the Gore Windstopper fabric. membrane and the outer shell. So yeah, definitely a discoloration wetting out of the fabric here. The same thing over here. I'll let you guys look at it. Yeah, and it's just so difficult with this lighting, and I'm not a photographer, but I can tell you that it is wet, discolored in that area, which would denote soaking through, and from my layman's perspective, and once again, you can't see that. And then over here on the Kodiak Stormshield, yeah, once again. So this is the outline of where the water was in that fabric, this area through here. And it's beginning to do that dimpling thing. But there's no doubt in my mind that, so another 30 minutes or so, you're not going to see any indication that water was ever on either of these bags. Okay. So, in conclusion of my two little water tests here, we found out that when I mist the fabric with 30 sprays of a small unknown brand of water sprayer, we found out that we could mist the fabric real heavy on the Stormshield and it beat it up really small. There were some bigger beads of water, but a lot of smaller water droplets that fit neatly into those little 32nd of an inch ripstop squares. And we found that a heavy misting on the Gore Windstopper, the beads were larger. I think that's due to the larger grid pattern on the Gore Windstopper, as there is in the Stormshield fabric. Really impressed. Yeah, the Stormshield still feels wet, and the Windstopper feels cool but not wetted out, and the discoloration is largely gone now on the Gore Windstopper, as where the discoloration on the Stormshield bag, that's still discolored through that area. And like I say, it still feels a little wet. So I think both of these bags repel moisture really, really well. Now I can't do a real accurate breathability test. I'm not the person to ask. I generally don't do a lot of heavy activity right before getting into my bag. I'm not a person that sweats very much. So all I can say is I've slept weeks and weeks and weeks in Gore Windstopper bags, and I've never had a problem with breathability of the fabric. It's never, ever been moist inside my sleeping bag, heaven forbid. I've never had a breathability issue with the Gore Windstopper fabric. I slept at near zero in this with steady snowfall all night, and I didn't have any moisture problems in the bag or at all. Like I say, this video is only going to be relevant for the rest of 2025, and by that time, the only Gore Windstopper bags you'll see on the market are used ones. Right now, they're getting rid of the current inventory of the Gore Windstopper bags. Like I say, there's 9 different models of bags that get this outer shell, now being replaced by the Stormshield outer shell fabric. I don't know that the Stormshield held up to the 3 ounces of water test as well as the Gore Windstopper. As I'm sitting here talking to you, or kneeling here talking to you, I can't feel any coldness or moisture at all. This bag, I feel wet. So I just tried to do some things that would be relevant for my viewers out there, you guys that are looking at maybe buying a new Stormshield bag or a new Kodiak Stormshield bag in particular, I'm not going to run out and sell all of my Gore Windstopper bags to buy Stormshield version of it. But there's a lot of things about this fabric I'm really impressed with. This final test with the 3 ounces of water, I think that's where it's not impressing me as much in other areas. It's just, I don't know, man. The Stormshield fabric is just taking a little longer for the face fabric on this bag to fully dry. So I think this is a great fabric for them moving forward. I mean, I've only gotten to sleep in it one night, and it held up the steady snowfall for 8 hours. So what I got to say is these are 2 excellent near waterproof sleeping bags that are highly breathable. The real strong selling point on the Stormshield is in the Kodiak model. It weighs 3 ounces less than the Gore Windstopper Kodiak model. It's tough and durable, yet it's actually lighter than the Gore Windstopper. I tried to do tests that would make sense to me if I was watching this video. Oh, the guy slept in a snowstorm. He shook it off and there didn't wet through and down didn't collapse. You know, poured 3 ounces of water on it and let it sit for an hour. These are extreme situations. I mean, are you really going to be sleeping in the snow without shelter? If so, you need to look at a bag like this. I can't really tell you how this will do long term. Western Mountaineering did indicate to me that you may need to have the DWR refreshed a little more frequently, a little more often than the Gore Windstopper. This bag is 5 years old. I've never washed it, and it performs just as well today as it did 5 years ago, which was 4 or 5 snowstorms ago that I slept open air in just to see what this Gore Windstopper fabric could do, and it was awesome. I think I'd be just impressed with this. But they both have that kind of crinkly 2-layer laminate feel. But the Gore Windstopper has a little suppler hand. It's crinklier sounding, but a suppler hand. This is really like ballistic cloth. The Stormshield fabric is completely forever chemical free. The Gore Windstopper bag is low in forever chemicals. And the forever chemicals that are in this bag are likely to not leach out into the environment. That's what they say. So if you found this comparison between the Western Mountaineering Gore Windstopper fabric and the Western Mountaineering Stormshield fabric helpful, please click like and subscribe to my channel. That'll help me out. I'll keep doing more videos like this. Until next one, stay safe out there and have fun.